The Holy Gospel according to St. Luke, the 24th chapter. Glory to you, O Lord. On the Sabbath day, the women rested. But on the first day of the week at early dawn, they came to the tomb bringing the spices that they had prepared. They saw the stone had already been rolled back from in front of the tomb, and when they went inside, there was no body there. While they were perplexed about this, suddenly two men in dazzling clothes stood beside them, and they were terrified, and they bowed their faces to the ground. But the men said, "Why are you looking for someone who's living among the dead? He's not here. He has been raised, just as he said. Remember how he told you when he was in Galilee that he would be handed over to sinners, that he would be crucified, and on the third day he would rise?" And they remembered all of the things that he had said. They returned then and told the 11 and the others what they had seen and heard. Now, the women who went to the tomb were Mary Magdalene and Joanna and Mary, the mother of James, and the other women. But the apostles thought this seemed like idle chatter. They did not believe them. Peter got up and ran to the tomb, and stooping to look inside, he saw the linen cloths there. And amazed at what he had seen, he returned to his home. This is the gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, O Christ. I have often confessed that I have really bad taste in television. I have watched a lot of seasons of The Bachelor, The Bachelorette, and Love is Blind. I'm super judgy when I watch them, I'll be honest. But deep down, I also am hoping for a love story. That somehow in learning about themselves and in learning about each other, that we'll really see something magical unfold before us. My current obsession has all of the same things: love, loss, tragedy, joy. Meet my latest it couple, Jackie and Shadow. Anyone else huge fans of the Big Bear Valley Eagle Cams? Thank you. It's really amazing to watch. Jackie and Shadow have been together a long time, and they've been coming back to this nest for several years. The eagle cams have been there for many years, placed there by conservationists to get, well, an eagle's eye view on what the eagles are doing 140 feet up in a pine tree. In 2023, Jackie and Shadow came to the nest, and they did all the eagle things, preparing the nest for it, and Jackie laid eggs, and she brooded, but the eggs didn't hatch. They came back in 2024, did all the eagle things. Jackie laid eggs, brooded them, and they didn't hatch. So to say that scientists were cautious in their optimism this year is probably well placed. Once again, they came back in December, and they started to redo their nest. Shadow is really good at bringing really big sticks. Jackie likes to bring the special fluff, and they tuck it into the nest. And sure enough, in the last week in January, Jackie laid 3 eggs. And then she began to brood, to sit on the eggs. Now, Shadow is a very helpful partner. Apparently, there's a whole TikTok stream of him hitting her in the head with big sticks. But it's the way he shows his love. He keeps making the nest stronger and stronger. And she brooded through all kinds of weather and conditions, rain and snow and sleet and wind, right? I know. She's protecting those eggs and keeping them warm. And then in the first week of March, the eggs hatched. 3 eaglets hatched. Just a couple of days after this, they got 2 feet of snow. The cameras were obscured for a couple days, and when they came out on the other side, there were just 2 eaglets left. They looked so vulnerable. They are now named Sunny and Gizmo, and they have been working Jackie and Shadow really, really hard. They're constantly bringing them food and fixing the nest and making sure the eaglets are taken care of. Look at the size of that fish that Shadow caught, and then they tear it into little pieces. Sunny and Gizmo, as the eaglets are known, are growing every day. But do you know they can barely stand, which is surprising because look at the size of those feet. One day they will grow into those, and somehow they'll learn all the things that they need to learn. And every once in a while, they stand up and they're really super unsteady. It makes it hard to believe that they'll ever be able to balance on a branch. And they'll spread their wings. And just for a moment, you're like, oh, that's an eagle in that body. But even after they fledge, Jackie and Shadow's work will not be done. They will continue to teach the eaglets throughout the summer, teaching them how to hunt and how to find their own partner and how to build a nest. Now, of course, it is a great love story, and I appreciate that. But that's not the only thing that I'm captivated by in this story. There's something about the fact, wondering, how do the eagles know what to do and when to do it? I know they have instinct, but I think another word for instinct is a deep memory. Some of it is in their DNA and some of it's taught, but it all comes together in a really powerful way. That they know somehow in December, when winter is just starting to settle in, like, oh, this is the time we need to build our nest and get back to the Big Bear Valley. Somehow they know that at the end of January, that if she lays 2 eggs or 3 eggs, like, she knows how many eggs she's supposed to have, and then she knows how long to brood. And maybe most surprising is when eaglets don't hatch, they know when to fly away and start over again. Something woven into them, a deep memory. The women that come to the tomb that day, they have that same kind of deep memory. Some of it is taught. They have been taught since they were children to write the commandments of God on your heart. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and soul and mind and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. It is part of who they are. Resting and taking the Sabbath. Can you imagine experiencing what they've experienced and taking a rest on the Sabbath? Even preparing the spices. This was women's work to prepare the bodies for burial. They didn't have a recipe. They couldn't Google it. They did it by feel. They showed up at the tomb that day and they knew, they remembered with their whole bodies what this was. And when you go to a tomb, you will find a dead body there. But there is no body. And while they're trying to figure all this out, all of a sudden, Liberace and Elton John from the 70s show up. 2 men in dazzling clothes. And they're terrified. The men say, why are you looking for someone living in a tomb? That doesn't make any sense. Remember how he told you? And then they remember. But they don't just remember with their head. They remember with their whole body. Because sure, Jesus told them a whole bunch of times, like, this is what's going to happen, everyone. I'm going to go to Jerusalem. I'm going to be handed over. I'm going to be killed. And then on the 3rd day, I'll rise again. But it was just words. But now they have seen it. The women, the scriptures tell us, were there from the beginning. They supported him in his ministry. They followed him to Jerusalem. They saw every step. They saw every betrayal. They saw every denial. They saw all the abuse. They saw his death on the cross. And they saw him laid in the tomb. All those are now written in their hearts. And now they have to write a new memory there. The story of the resurrection. You know, I don't know all the reasons you might think you're here today. They're probably valid. But underneath all those reasons, there is a deep memory in us that calls us here, that calls us to hear this story once again. It calls us to remember that even when we are deeply grieving, even when we have no idea what the way forward is, this story reminds us with our whole bodies that we can take a step and we can get through it, and there is resurrection on the other side. We remember, maybe one of the most encouraging things for me is how each and every gospel tells the story in a different way, but in each and every one, the disciples are completely confused. They are afraid, they don't believe. It gives us permission as people of faith not to just have it all figured out, but to learn and grow along with them. But maybe above all, it's that we remember the love that was revealed on the cross. It is not a love that we earn for good behavior. It is a love that is freely given. You are loved like that. And like Sunny and Gizmo in that nest 140 feet in the tree, that love is only the beginning. There are a lot of bumps along the road, and we need a lot of support and nourishment as we try to stand on these legs of faith and try to stand and receive fully this love. And it can be a little overwhelming. But when we practice, when we try, when we stretch, we might just fly one day and then do it all over again and again and again, because that's the promise of our faith. Alleluia. Christ is risen. Christ is risen indeed. Alleluia.